Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brandon Shank, and welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast. What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Had a mini stroke. Welcome to the podcast. I hope that everybody is doing good. I heard a little chime going on in the background there. It sounded like a little
have
a clock.
Yeah, we have like one of those cuckoo clocks, whatever. I don't know what you call it.
Oh.
You gotta like wind it up every week.
Oh yeah,
it'll stop.
Oh
here
man,
in a
it's
second.
old school.
I know.
It's old school.
Yeah. It's apparently like the same one that my wife's like grandmother had. So it's kind of like nostalgic. She found it. Yeah, it's very nostalgic for her.
It's pretty cool. Well, hey, let's open up by letting everybody know the Commanders got hosed this past weekend. And I saw a funny meme where a guy caught a ball, and they took the ball and ran up a couple yards and put it down, and they said, that's your new spot. But listen, I'm one of these advocates. I'm a firm believer. Not one play doesn't cost you. We had multiple opportunities to do great things. We didn't do them. We had some fumbles. We lost the game. Moving on. You know, Steelers have to get through the Chiefs anyway to get to Super Bowl. That ain't happening. So I'm fine with it. They got that steel wall called the Chiefs, so they ain't going there. But I will make a big prediction.
I'm hoping the Ravens beat them this week, though.
They might. I'm making a big prediction, though. Thing I've seen with the Chiefs and the teams they play in the AFC, Chiefs are very finesse. And with Pacheco coming back, their running back, he is a hard-nosed, gritty, bloody runner. But without him, the Chiefs really aren't a hard-nosed, gritty team. They're a finesse team. They're smooth. But some of the NFC teams, they're just bloody knuckles in the trenches, punching you in the face. And the Chiefs, I don't know. I've just not sold on them. I don't know if they play a team like that, if they win. Maybe they do. I just don't know. I think when they play some of these NFC teams, the teams may not be as good overall, but they're in the trenches. They're just dirty, meaning like they're just bloody knuckles, hardcore, muddy. It's just a very different type of football, and I just wonder if they'll do as well against those teams, because I think Patrick Mahomes may find himself on his back a lot more than he thinks. But we'll see. You know what I mean? We'll see, because time will tell.
Yeah.
But I will make the prediction. I do not think the Chiefs win the Super Bowl this year.
I hope not.
I just don't think they will. I think Patrick Mahomes is phenomenal. I think their team is good. I think Andy Reid's a genius. I just think this is a trap. Maybe they will. Good for them if they do. But I don't know that they will. Not this year. Not this year, boys and girls. And I could sit here in February and be corrected, but that's my bold prediction. So I think I need to be a GM of some professional team. Yeah, I think I missed my calling. But, maybe I just feel like I tell every year coming into the NFL draft, I'm like, Case, this is about this person, this is about, and then I'm always right. Like right now, the Bears, they want the starters. The word on the street is they just fired their offensive coordinator. The word on the street is the starters wanted to sit Caleb Williams before they fired their offensive coordinator, because he's only completing 60% of his passes. The miracle is over. It's now like real life. And I told Casey, I said, this guy, the one thing that it's been evident he struggled with from a distance was, some camaraderie with his teammates. And before he got drafted, his parents were involved with the contract, and that stuff always just doesn't sit well with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious, I think this guy's a lot of talent. I think he's got a ton of talent. But, in the NFL, you can throw the ball a mile, but if you can't read a defense and make those quick decisions, it doesn't matter how much talent you have. And that's one thing that the combines don't measure.
Yeah.
They try to, but they can't. Like Peyton Manning, he didn't have a great arm. I mean, don't get me wrong, Peyton Manning could still throw a ball a long ways, and he could throw it on a dime. But his footballs always look like they got shot in midair. And he was one of the best to ever do it, because he's smart, he was quick. And don't get me wrong, Peyton Manning can throw a football. But I'm saying when you compare him to, some of the greats, even you got guys who will never be associated with Peyton Manning in the same sentence that can throw a football way better than he ever could. It's just he had it upstairs. He had the mental game. So, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, enough about that. How about the fun fact for the day? What do you got for us?
Can we go to space today?
Why not?
I feel like I took it back to my roots last week. It was a funny fart thing, smell thing. But
that's usually every other week.
Yeah. Honestly, this week, it is. I try and stay humble to my roots.
Yeah.
No good. Fart jokes. No fart. Well, I can't promise that, but no, this isn't about flatulence space has gas, but
there we go. There we go. The rabbit hole is open.
I just want to read you something. I read this, and there are space facts that a lot of times for me, they kind of just blow my mind. It's so hard to wrap your mind around the the infinite nature of God's creation, the heavens, whatever name you have for it. I read this, and honestly, it's just one of those things where I just sat with it for a while, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, we know it's huge, we know it's massive, but can I just read this for you? Maybe just sit today in the beauty of God's creation. There's a bunch of numbers, a bunch of things I'm going to spit out, but it's really towards the end that kind of just blows my mind. But here it is. If you want to try wrapping your head around how many planets actually exist, here's the math, and it's unbelievable. The observable universe has 2 trillion galaxies. It's just what we can observe. Each galaxy has 100 billion stars. Each star has about 1.6 planets. Multiplying these gives you 3.2 times 10 to the 23rd planets in the observable universe. Now it gets scary. According to our measurements of the curvature of the universe, it is estimated that the unobservable universe is 23 trillion light years in diameter, and that's a minimum. Some theories suggest it's infinite, equating to a volume of 15,126,368 times greater than the observable universe. This means that there are 3.2 times 10 to the 23rd times 15,126,368 planets in the total universe as a minimum. If you want to try picturing this number, let's compare it to all the sand on our planet. So all the deserts, all the beaches, all the sand that we have on planet Earth, there are about 7.5 sextillion grains of sand on Earth. Here's where it gets crazy. So if that wasn't crazy enough, so we're talking of grains of sand on planet Earth. Taking the total planets from earlier, we find that each grain of sand represents not one, but 1 billion planets.
What?
And we have all of the Earth's grains to count. Take a moment and think of a single beach. So we live here at Virginia Beach. Each grain is not a planet, it's a billion. And now you have to count every beach and every ocean, every desert. And this is a minimum. It's almost certainly much larger, possibly infinite.
Wow.
Are you kidding me? Like,
it's unbelievable.
That's what I'm saying.
How
do you even...
like if the Bible says like no eye has seen, no ear has heard, like we can't comprehend. And it's like, yeah, I mean, we don't even have the technology to go and explore our galaxy, let alone the billions or trillions of galaxies outside of us. We can't even get outside of our galaxy.
I'm dumbfounded by that article.
And is it crazy to you that we really stress about, like, I don't know, money, and like we don't trust God to provide?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's for like sure. We don't trust God to provide financially for us because there's no way He'll be able to make this bill if we're faithful in giving to Him and being a part of it. There's no way that God will do this miracle in my life, and it makes life. We make life such the central part because it's all we know. Mm-hmm. But the Bible says you'll be more alive than you ever were once you move on to the next place, when you move on to heaven, if that's where you're headed.
Yeah.
It just, when I read stuff like that, what's your initial feeling when you read stuff like that? Just really quickly, like your initial feeling.
So I do like that. I think that's a great point. I think that's almost my second thought is what you just said. Is just like, yeah, goodness, I complain about this, the vastness of God's creation. But my first thought is all of that, and He cares about me. Like, that's my first thought, is the entirety of everything that He has done and created through all of time, past, present, future. I mean, 1 grain of sand is a billion planets, and yet His love is pointed directly at me and you. And I think that was almost my sentiment to reading that today, is just like, the God that created all of that has chosen you, loves you. Like, that kind of blows my mind. And then, yeah, like you said, secondly, it just allows you to take a step back and be like, he's got it. I don't like, do I have to figure things out? Yes. I think that's the beauty of God is he works with us. And he stretches us and we're growing, but ultimately he loves me. I love him. He's got it. Like he's got it under control. And, yeah, that's what I feel.
Yeah. I just immediately feel like restful, peaceful, knowing like, man, he really does have all this. I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
You know, like you just think like, I really am in God's hands. Like everything is so small. Like life is so small and so minute and so fast. And like you worry about making a house payment, or you worry about how you're going to afford that car. All this stuff. And for me, it's mostly financial. As weird as that sounds, for somebody who money has never been an idol, people who know me know like I've never been driven by money. It's never been something I'm impressed by. I'm not impressed by people who have a lot. I'm not impressed by people who are famous. It's not a pride thing. It's just Honestly, I've always been amazed by the vastness of God, that like there's no human that I've really been like in awe of. And that sounds weird, I know. The only person in my life that I would have loved to have met when I was a kid is Barry Sanders, the best running back to ever play the game of football. Even now, like he was it was because I just saw like something. I love to watch people that are great at something. That's why I love going. I love going to Broadway shows. I love, listening to good marching bands. I love going to parades. Like I love stuff where people are doing something and they're really good at it. I just love humanity and how good we can be at something. I think about that all the time. Like the other night I was watching the Rams game on Monday night and I thought, man, humanity has created this stadium. We've created healthcare. We've just created so much. And it shows how amazing God is like he's made us, and as minute as we are, what we've been able to create, and we're his greatest creation, but like we're not. It says that human knowledge is foolishness to God. And so to think in that concept, it's amazing to think about all that we are able to do with the knowledge God's given us. So when I think of that, I just think of, man, I'm just at peace. Like this world and all this stuff really is fleeting, and it's really just so small, and it's just brick and mortar. Like me and Casey moved into our new house last October, and all that it was, I just told her, it's just brick and mortar. Like at the end of the day, it's just wood. It's just wood and like stuffing for the walls. Like it's, you know what I mean? It's just, it's just wood. It's wood and glass, and at the end of the day, like it's great. God is faithful, but I think sometimes we always look at like the things he gives us as how faithful he is, not realizing there's so much more to him than that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Like the earth. I mean, Mark Batterson does a great job of showing this in his books about how the earth is always moving. God is always moving so fast, and like heaven, when it comes to people being born and died, is constantly like ding, 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 ding. You know, people are dying and being born that fast all the time. Probably more like, you know, it's probably more like that. It's just constant, you know. So it is crazy. You know, it's like the North Pole up there. Both people. And even crazier. So, well, hey, you asked for it.
Don't blame me. You asked for it.
So I will be the first to tell you, my whole life, I've always had a pretty weak stomach, right? I remember one time I was a kid, probably in elementary school, and I went into a Chili's. And somebody, going back to poop, because we always do on this podcast. Somebody has had an issue all over the toilet seat.
No,
and I was a kid. I remember opening it up, peeing in the urinal, and then going back out to eat. And I could barely eat, like the whole day. And I've always been like that. Like if something turns my stomach, like I'm like a no-go. And it's usually only for a little bit, but like I can't see something that really grosses me out and then just go like chow down. Like that is not me at all. So one thing I'll do is if I'm going to eat somewhere like at a restaurant, unless it's a super clean restaurant, and even then, like I would prefer to never have to use the restrooms until after I'm done eating.
Yeah.
Are you ever like that?
No, I don't.
Or do you not even think?
I don't even think about it. No.
Yeah. So there could be a bark during this podcast, by the way. My dog is over here sleeping, and he's growling at something. I don't know. He's in a fight in his dreams.
Having a dream?
He's whimpering. Yeah. He's whimpering, growling. Get him, buddy. Go get him, King. Go get him, pal. But anyway, so the reason I say that is because I'm very finicky. Like, I can't do it. I can't go in the bathroom. And now I can. It depends on where it's at, but it's like, it's just, I'd rather not, okay?
Yeah.
So the other day, I was at the mall, and it wasn't a restaurant issue, but I saw something that was so interesting. My thought was, what happened in there? What happened? And I walk in, and there is a guy vigorously washing his arms from his elbows down.
Oh.
From his elbows down, like a surgeon getting ready to go in and take out somebody's organs. And I'm thinking, I have a couple scenarios here, okay? A, the man's a surgeon, and it's just natural. He just scrubs that thing like nobody's business. Like, he wants to make sure he's clean all the time. Never know when you're going to get that call to go in, and it should save somebody's life. All right? That's my first scenario.
Yeah, sure.
Second scenario is that this guy has some OCD issues, and he just can never be clean enough. And so maybe he didn't even use the restroom, but he went in there and just had to clean elbows down because it was that time. I mean, I'm talking like soap, froth. I know it's probably a coffee term. Well, foam. Soap foam from the elbows down. The dude was going hard, bro. Hard. The third scenario is something none of us want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, it went real bad.
This man just had an issue. This man just saw Jesus. So I was.
How did it get on the ceiling?
Yeah, exactly. All I know is it was a busy day at the mall. Place was packed. And it was one of those things I almost passed out because I tried to hold my breath from the time I walked in until the time I left. No, not for any reason. But when I saw that, I said, so this thing ain't going to go good.
That just like gets in your mind, and then you're creating all these scenarios.
When I saw that, I was thinking there's either a dead body or this guy just touched death. One of the two. But death is in the room, is what I felt like. And so I had two of my little guys with me. I said, hey, fellas, hurry up, let's go. And, kids, they don't wash anyway, so they're like 2 seconds, they're out of the bathroom. I said, no, y'all come back and wash your hands. Take it from that guy over there. Wash your elbows down. Let's go. Get this thing clean. I was just curious. I was like, what's the story behind this man, Corey?
Yeah. Can I share probably my most awkward bathroom story? So I'll make it short and sweet. I was in Best Buy and had to go. It just hit sometimes. So I'm like, I got to go. This is Best Buy in Hagerstown.
For all you out there. Well, go ahead.
So to this day, I don't even know what to think about this, but I went into the restroom.
I know what you're going to say. I remember this.
Do you remember this? Yeah, I went into a stall, sat down, and I looked in the corner of the bathroom. There's not on a plate, but if you had to plate the perfect plate of spaghetti with a meatball on top of it, that was sitting in the corner of the bathroom.
How do you know it wasn't a fake spaghetti meatball?
Bro, it was not fake. I can promise you it was not fake. I know what fake looks like. Perfectly. A perfect plate of spaghetti with a meatball on top, garnished and everything, just sitting in the corner of the bathroom. Like,
garnished?
I don't know.
It had a little basil on it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It had everything. It had everything. Like, if you would go, I don't know, name an Italian restaurant and order spaghetti with one ginormous meatball on top, that's what it looked like, just sitting in the corner of the floor.
Somebody was walking through Best Buy starving because they just dropped their spaghetti on the ground.
It perfectly slid out of their tray.
Slid out. So, speaking of bathroom and spaghetti, there was, which never is a good segue into what I'm about to say, but there was the reason that I will never get Uber Eats or ever get my food delivered ever is during COVID. I remember this meme that I saw, and it said, "Don't worry, we'll be there soon." And it showed the bottom of a bathroom stall, somebody's feet, and then it showed the bag of Uber Eats sitting beside their feet. And I'm thinking, that's disgusting. I will never order and have somebody deliver my food because of that. Yeah. I can't do it. And this is the thing. So my stomach, my wife would tell you I got a weak stomach, but it's not really weak as in like I get sick. It's like that thing of if something turns it, I'm going to need a couple minutes to bring it back.
Sure.
Like I'm going to need some time. I just can't get over it. And it's just what it is. You know what I mean?
Well, that was our whole,
right?
That was like our whole eggnog episode. The episode before.
The eggnog didn't turn my stomach. The thing that turned my stomach was I was wearing
the episode when we were thinking about the eggnog.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The thing that turned my stomach when we drank the eggnog, it was delicious, by the way, was I was wearing a bunny suit that was 100 degrees, and that office we were shooting the podcast in, the sun came in there, and it would heat that place up. There was no way to keep it cool.
Yeah.
So I chugged. We didn't know because we don't put alcohol in it. You're not supposed to chug eggnog. You're supposed to sip it. Well, I was 2 glasses in within 12 seconds. right? I mean, I had 2 glasses of that stuff in a bunny suit, 100 degrees. The sun is beating in. I'm thinking, bro, I'm not. The highlight of this episode is not going to be we finally drank eggnog and I like it. It's going to be we threw the eggnog up. So
Yeah.
that was, and then it was cookie day. So then we went out and got cookies afterwards. You know, I do miss
Always.
cookie day.
Never miss
No
it.
more cookie day now with our new building. You know,
That's true.
we should figure out a way to do cookie days. So now that we've talked a lot this episode about the afterlife and death and what comes after, and Jesus and all powerful, and God is omnipresent, omniscient, the great creator, and the everlasting. That's the highlight. That's the encapsulating theme of today's podcast.
Right.
So I recently read an article that really made me think. And I'm hoping this is going to trigger some of y'all, and I hope it's going to help you guys think. But there was 3 regrets, and I've read many articles like this before, but this one in particular, I was like, man, I can resonate with those because I think they're all struggles that I currently have in my life. 3 regrets that people have on their deathbed. And this was by a hospice nurse, as they always are. All these articles are written based on interviews done with people that are with people as they die often. And I would think when I read these, nobody's going to say, oh, wow, I'd never thought of that. It wasn't like, I wish I washed my car more often. I wish that I had, mowed my grass. I wish that I had gone shopping. Like, we all get it. Like, those aren't going to be on there, right? These are ones that affect your life. But the things that really affect our life are, man, I meant to get my car washed. Or, man, I meant to go shopping. Or, man, I meant to do this, right? Stuff that doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, do you want to guess what you think it was?
I don't know, like either like take more risks or spend more time with family or something.
No, neither one of those. But those are both good questions. Those are both good.
Okay.
So this particular number 1 was, I wish, and this was honestly a surprise to me. I wish I had appreciated my health more when I had it.
That's good.
I mean, you think about it, and those of you, if you've ever gotten sick or you get the flu, you're like 3 or 4 days in. Whenever you start feeling better, it's like the whole world opens up, right? And it's only a couple days. But people who have had cancer that struggle with 9 months or a year, been 2 or 3 years, and then they're free, they have such a new perspective on life. And honestly, you don't see them a lot of times getting bitter and frustrated at things that most people get bitter and frustrated at because their perspective has shifted.
Yeah.
So they appreciate something that they didn't. And I think for a lot of us, if we're being honest, like most of the times the reason we struggle with so much depression or so much anger is because our perspective, it's a wonderful life, right? Once your perspective shifts and you're like, man, and I think of this, like so many things we worry about. If you think about like how bad it is, and then you think about what it could be like on the other side, and then you come back to your life and how bad you think it is, your perspective would shift. If you were going to prison for a couple of weeks to experience that, or if you had your kids taken from you or whatever it may be, and then you have it back, but man, I don't even care financially what we're at. I would live in a 1-bedroom apartment with all my family just to have it. You know what I mean? Like it's a perspective shift.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting. Number 2 is I think something that I don't want to say this is something we all struggle with, but I think this is something that does. For me, I can tell you I don't feel like I have this regret. And I don't feel like it's been close, but I do feel overwhelmed sometimes, is that they wish they hadn't worked their life away.
Yeah.
I will say 2 things concerning that. I don't think you'll ever feel like that if you love what you do and you feel like it's changing people's lives.
Correct.
Now, I think there's always an imbalance. Like if you're doing that, but you're not home with your kids, you're missing big days, like that's just on you. I don't care what you're doing. Like my dad was a pastor. My parents were pastors. And my parents will tell you now, like my mom and dad will miss Sundays to go to Caden, my oldest, his baseball games, or Rylan or Makai or Asher. They'll miss church to go to games. My dad never once in my entire life, the 18 years I lived in his home, missed church on a Sunday for any game that I ever played. We had football games on Sunday afternoons. My best friend's dad would take me. I had all-stars that I had to travel for, and my parents would send me with somebody. They never missed a Sunday in the 18 years that I was their child, even when my dad was just on staff somewhere. But now they'll be gone for my son's games, and I'm like, what's going on here? My dad's like, I'm making up for lost time. And he'll tell you, my dad, it was very interesting. So let me tell you this. My dad's a pastor, made great impact a lot of people's lives, did a lot of great things. But my dad, there was a scenario a couple years ago. We lived in Missouri, probably 10 years ago, 15. No, this is probably 15, 20 years ago. We lived in Missouri, And I told my dad I bought tickets to the Commanders, or at the time it was the Redskins and Eagles. And I lived in Missouri, so I said, I'm going to come home, take you to this game. And he said, well, I can't go. We have an event at the church. I said, what are you doing? He said, we're caroling. I said, caroling? He said, yeah, we're Christmas caroling. Well, that sounds awful. So anyway, he missed it to go Christmas caroling. Well, last 3 weeks ago, me and my dad, I took him to the Panthers game. And we were at the game, and I was talking. I was like, yeah, man. He's like, well, I've never been to this stadium. You know, he's been at the old RFK. And I said, well, you know, I had tickets years ago. He's like, you did? I said, yeah, I had tickets to the Eagles game. Remember you couldn't go? He's like, no. He said, why didn't I go? I said, because I said, you told me you had caroling with your church. And he said, what an idiot. Why would I ever do that?
Yeah, I feel like if you're going caroling, you're looking for an excuse to not go caroling.
Well, they did it. And my dad was like, what an idiot. Why would I do that? Well, what he's essentially saying is, like, now his perspective's different. Of like, man, I would have loved to have done that instead. But he's retired. He's enjoying life. And honestly, in work world, in life world, when we're trying to make bills, we're trying to take care of our families, there's this constant level of adrenaline that exists, right? And all of us go from adrenaline to adrenaline. And then these adrenaline dumps happen, and we're depressed or whatever it may be. But my dad was like, man, what an idiot. Why did I do that? And I think for all of us, if we're being honest, there's a lot of decisions we make right now that we feel like we're running. And I think we're going to look back like, man, why did I do that? Like, that was a lot of effort for something that maybe didn't matter. And my dad was a pastor. He's leading people to the greatest thing he could ever do. But I think right now for me, before I started our church, I told God, I don't want my kid to become a ministry orphan. I don't want to do this, and then my children don't have the connection to me or my wife. I don't want them to feel like we're not around. And God spoke so clearly to me. He said, my son died for the church. I'm not asking yours to.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's, you know, for all of us, you know, they wish that they hadn't worked their life away. And I wonder if a lot of people listen, you just feel like you're a hamster in a wheel sometimes, and you don't feel like you're really doing what you're called to do. And I would say this: if you're doing what you love doing, you'll never work a day in your life. And I mean, people say that, but the reality is, like, and I have 5 different income streams right now. I have 5 different jobs, right? I teach at 2 colleges. I have a couple of different things I do. And I can tell you, out of those 5, there are a couple of things that I don't want to do forever. There are just ways right now that I know God's growing me. There's things that I'm learning. There's things that I'm doing. But then there's a couple of them where I'm like, I want to do this the rest of my life. One of those is I love pastoring Palms. Like, I started that church, my wife and I want to be there for the rest of my life. And so I think that, you know, and I'm always willing to do what God says, but I say that in context to, I think for a lot of us, I wonder if we're on our deathbed, if we're like, man, I know, like right now, I feel like if I was on my deathbed, I could say, man, I just feel like we've made a lot of mistakes, but we've also run it well. And my kids I've been present, I've been there, and I love what I've gotten to do. I haven't just done something so that at 35 years, they give me a watch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
And those things need done. But I think that a part of it is we're doing things we don't want to do, and then we're giving more time to it than we want to give. And we look back, and it wasn't a good scenario.
Yeah. And I think those things too are like, I know working in ministry, you know, that is, to my kids, that kind of is a reflection of the church. And I think it needs to be healthy because, you know, we all grew up. You're a pastor's kid. I'm a pastor's kid. We grew up seeing, honestly, if I'm being real, like kind of almost having a slightly jaded view of the church because of my relationship with my parents and watching my parents. Now,
100%.
I do feel like my parents tried to be open with us. I am thankful that they didn't necessarily hide some of the struggles, but at the same point, yeah, I grew up in that generation where you were always at the church. It's church. Well, we got a church event. Well, we got a church thing. We got a church thing.
Always at the church.
I lived at the church, and
always.
And I've had my own journey of being in ministry young, having kids while I was in full-time ministry, and honestly, somewhat getting to that same place and had to realize, like, man, I'm almost doing some of the same things that I remember watching as a kid my parents do. And yeah, it's a balance. You're right. It's a balance. And I've learned that how I lead my home, my family, and our faith collectively is a reflection of how they view the church. And I want them to have a healthy relationship with the church. And so you carry that kind of mantle, especially as they're growing up. So,
yeah. And I think the generation before us sacrificed family on the altar of ministry. I think this generation sacrifices ministry on the altar of family.
Yeah.
There's a way to do both well.
Yeah.
You know, My kids love the church. They love the church. They serve in the church. They're active. But they see it as a place that gives life. They don't see it as a place that's ever taken dad from us. They see it as a place that is life-giving, and that they have friends and relationships, and they got people like you and just people throughout our church that are like family to them. They're as close as any family member they have. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I think that there is a definitely, we have a lot of pastors' kids in our church, but the reality is the reason I didn't want to go into ministry is because I was a pastor's kid. But then I realized, because I said, God, I don't want to go to heaven if those people are there. And I just really feel like the Lord's like, well, follow me and not people, and watch what I'll do. And what I realized is leadership lets people become what they want to be. That like bad leadership will let people do what they want, say what they want. Good leadership directs people, and you're not the most popular, but discipline is a part of good leadership, like helping people get somewhere. And I got people in my life that are always refining me, pastors and mentors and people speaking into my life. So yeah, I agree, man. Hopefully all y'all out there are doing things you love and that you feel. I've had people that I know. I had somebody recently. They're taking massive pay cuts. They just want to do something that feels like valuable to them. They're like, I don't want to waste my life working, and they're making $250,000. They're like, I don't want to waste my life doing this. I want to do something valuable. But I think it's true. Like, money is just so temporary, and it's like I really don't care if I have everything. I have a good friend who, one of his best friends, had an aspiration to become this big time realtor and all this. And my buddy told me the story about how he went out to dinner with this guy, and this guy's driving, like this $100,000 car, wearing like a $20,000 watch, and has no wife or kids or nothing, but he's like, late 30s and just loaded. And he looks at my buddy and says, man, I'm just so empty. Like, I thought this would bring peace. He's like, I got more money than I'll ever need, and I just don't have anything around me. And it's like, only God can fill that void. And I think when people are doing what God's called them to do, there'll be a lot of people in their deathbed that say, man, I've just been faithful to God. And because I think I don't ever want to lose that. I was in my prayer walk this morning, just like, Lord, I just want to honor you with my life, and I will go wherever you lead me. And I mean that, because it's just such a feeling of peace. I mean, the dude has, a billion galaxies per grain of sand. I mean, what more do you want?
Trust him.
Number 3 is that, so number 1 is they wish they'd appreciated their health and they had it. Number 2 is they wish they hadn't worked their life away. And number 3 is they regret how they navigated their relationships, such as not saying sorry when they should have, or not reconnecting sooner to their estranged, to somebody estranged, or caring too much what people thought. And I think this is so important, because how many of us work and live our lives with bitterness? How many people live our lives with a lack of forgiveness? We drink poison and expect other people to die. That's what not forgiving somebody is. And then how many of us live our lives caring too much what other people think? I posted something last week on my socials, and I picked pictures of my boys, and I told them, like, because I wanted people to be encouraged. Like, listen, my kids growing up, I've always told my kids, people that bully you are intimidated by you, and people that talk about you are only talking about you because there's something about you that they don't have or they want. And those people can attain those things. They just have to go after them the way you've gone. I said, don't apologize for your success. Don't apologize for the things that God's given you. Don't apologize for the blessings. You work hard. And I tell my oldest son all the time, he wants to play ball at a high level, wants to play in college, thinks he's going to play in the pros. But I tell him, listen, maybe God has that. But I said, listen, if you want to play in college, you're going to have to practice when nobody else is practicing. And what's going to happen is, as you get older, all your friends you play ball with, there's only going to be a third of them that are still playing. The rest of them are out hanging out with their girlfriends and working summer jobs, which is fine. But if you're committed to this sport, it becomes your commitment. While everybody else is making money and getting to do things, you're in the cages hitting. You're learning your craft. Because when you get to college, it's a full-time job. And I told him this because I just think it's important for my boys to know the type of work it's going to get to where they want to go. But I also think that relationships are really important, but you also got to know which ones to have around you. You also got to know which ones are valuable. Some of them honestly aren't worth keeping. They pull from you, they take from you, they rip things out of you. Other ones, it's what you need. You know what I'm saying? So just a quick overview of that. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I like to learn how to do new things, and I've always been that way. Even as a kid, I kind of had this mindset of like, not for any other reason than honestly, like just for myself. So I just want to tackle this thing, and I want to try and be the best I can be at it. But there's always been this kind of phrase that, like, you know, jokingly with people, I don't think I've ever had anyone really attack me on it, but there's been this thing in my life of just like, oh, well, like, yeah, Corey's good at that, and Corey, you know, and this, and things just come easy. And I'm like, no, I've worked really hard at all of these things. What do you mean things come easy to me? I've got, you know, I started doing this when I was 6. I started doing this when I was 10. And like, I was the kid at even 10 years old. I'd come home, I'd get my homework done, and then I'd spend 2 hours on this thing like almost every day of my life until my parents told me like, yo, like, you need to stop. like, you know, they'd flick the lights or whatever, whether it was an instrument or art or design stuff or photography, or like a lot of the areas of my life. I think now people look on the backside of it, because I think I started so young, that it's like, oh, well, those things are just easy to you. Like, no, I had to work on that craft a lot, and I've done my 10,000 hours or whatever, you know. So yeah, I think I agree with that is like, no, put in the work, be disciplined. If you want to learn how to do something, learn how to do something and practice it. I'm of the thought that anyone, like, if you're physically able, anyone can learn anything. You just got to practice. You got to put in the work. And if you're not willing to do that, then, but again, you're going to have, yeah, you're right. You're going to have people that are jealous of those things that you've spent hours working on that truthfully they haven't spent hours on, or thousands of hours on. So yeah, that's what I go back to. Is just like, I've put in the work here. Can you always improve? Can you always get better? Absolutely. And I think staying humble, that there's always someone out there that's better than you. Like, there's someone else that's doing it better than you.
People have said the same things, you know, and I think for me, you know, yeah, I'm 42, but like, I always had a dream of getting my doctorate by the time I was 40. I don't know why, but it was. So I did. And I chased it. And during COVID, you know, I was grinding doing that while everything else was going on. Or actually the year after COVID. Because I knew that God had stirred me to do it. He said, go preach my word. And he stirred me to get my doctorate then. And it wasn't that, you know, this or that, but like, it's opened a lot of doors. It's opened a lot of opportunities for me in other areas. And I know that God stirred me to coach. I know that there's different things he's told me to do that have opened doors. And it's been awesome. You know what I mean? And I know that there's been jealousy. There's been people say stuff. And it's like, well, do the hard work then. If you want to be in the same circle, do the hard work. Some people say, well, I'm a great coach. I can do this or that. Well, then do the hard work to become a great coach. You know, just this past week, you know, I got reached out to by the state of Virginia again for this big tournament. They want me to coach this in a national tournament for the state of Virginia team. And it's like, I didn't even coach this year. Right?
Yeah.
I didn't even coach this year, but they're asking me, will you coach for this big tournament and take the kids from the state, recruit the state? And it's cool. But the reality is, these are opportunities God's given me. These are things that I've been faithful in, and people want those roles, but it's like, well, what are you doing to get there? And then is God asking it? And that's what I always ask myself. Like, I worked really hard for things that just didn't work out, but it's like, God never asked me to do those things. And he would give them to me if I begged hard enough, probably sometimes. But I think a lot of us, man, it's just that perspective of like, what's God actually asking you to do? You know what I mean? But yeah, I hope that when you guys are at the end of your life, you can look at your relationships and say, man, we navigated and we were faithful. I've had people that have screwed me over and said stupid things and done the wrong thing. And it'll come back to bite them, because it does. You know, the sins will find you out. What you reap, you will sow, period. And when I do that to people, it always comes back to get me, because none of us are bulletproof when it comes to intrinsic truth and moral code of the Bible. It just is what it is. So, you know, I hope you're encouraged today. Here's my final thought. Well, coming off of those thoughts of the 3 things that people wish they had done before they died, and finishing on forgiveness, I don't know what you're going through in life today, but I really feel like the words of Frozen are in my head and just says, let it go, let it go. Whatever it is, just let it go, move on. I always think of Isaiah 43:18-19, but it says, forget the former things, don't dwell on the past. See, I'm doing a new thing. And I think you need to know that today. Like, listen, it doesn't matter where you've been, what you've done, how things have just felt like they've crashed around you. I am telling you, don't get to the end of your life and wish that you'd appreciated your health. Go enjoy your health. Don't get to the end of your life and wish that you hadn't worked your life away. If you feel like you're working your life away, but you need the money, go find another job where you enjoy it and learn how to live differently so that you can enjoy your life. Maybe you feel like you regretted your relationships and how you navigated them. That's okay. Fix it. You're here listening to this. You have an opportunity to fix it. So I just pray that you would feel the presence of God in your life, that you would know he's not disappointed in you, that the Bible says there is no shame or condemnation in Christ Jesus. So he never feels that way about you. He's in love with you. He's proud of you. Let me pray for you. Lord, I pray for each and every listener. I pray they would know you love them, you care for them, your hand is on them, you'll never leave them, and that, God, you are proud of the creation that you've made. And I pray they would see that today. In Jesus' name, amen. Love you guys. Hey, we got our one day this weekend at Palms, 9:30, online, in person. Love to see you there. We'll see y'all soon.